Hey everyone, I'm Lily, and welcome to, I haven't done one of these in a few weeks, but my next part of my top 10 cards for Commander Cube series. So, I'm going to be continuing, I talked about maybe like jumping around a bit in the last video, but I didn't get many responses, people opinion on that, so I'm just going to keep going backwards in chronological order. It's just easier. But it's also very exciting because today is Unstable, which is honestly one of my favorite sets of all time to just come out. Yeah, no, it's really cool. It has a lot of really neat things. Just the normal, check off things. So I'm evaluating these for Commander Cube, where, if you don't know, Commander Cube is like a cube that you like put its pre-designed set of cards that you draft, but instead of a 40 card deck at the end, you're making a commander deck. And you play it, and it's a lot of fun. And I've done some videos on it, and I never remember, but if you just search, like, I don't know, if you look at the Commander Cube playlist on my channel, the first video on there is kind of like talking about what Commander Cube is and how it works and things like that. But yeah, so, a few things that I don't include is I don't include any reprints, although there's only one reprint in the set. Although Steamflogger Boss wouldn't even get onto the list, so don't worry about that. And secondly, it is, secondly, I don't include the legendary creatures, because every Commander Cube handles their legendary creatures differently, so yeah, I just don't include them in this list. Also, just too many of the lists would be dominated by the legends, because it's Commander. Like, the legendary creatures are, at least in recent sets, like kind of like designed with Commander in mind a lot of the time, so it would dominate a bit too much. But yeah, and there's other criteria that I talk about, but I'll talk about them if it comes up. One thing that I do like, the one thing that I should say about Unstable is that it's a really cool set, but it does have some issues where it has a few, like, it was a very synergy focused set where you want, in a cube, like in a deck, you want critical mass of these cards to go together. Like, yeah, there are like some dice rolling cards that are fine and things like that, but you might want on your own, but for the most part, you don't really want most of the dice rolling cards in a Commander Cube deck. So I don't include most of those. I'm mostly looking for the ones that aren't necessarily within the base deck archetypes, just because they don't, like, same thing of Host Augment, it's just hard to make critical mass of those work within a cube. Like, I have tails set up for them in my cube, but I don't talk about that there, because that's kind of a unique thing to my cube. So, slow down, Lily. This is supposed to be somewhat ASMR. I just get very excited when I start talking about Commander Cube. Yeah. Also Unstable, because Unstable is awesome. Bam. One thing to note though is contraptions, because the hard thing about contraptions is that during normal Unstable Limited, you have to draft your contraptions as well. But if you want to have some cards that do assemble contraptions, you could have and just have them in a cube and not have to worry about people like having to also draft their contraption deck. Is that you could have with the cube like a shared contraption deck that everyone has. So you could have some cards that assemble contraptions, but it comes from the center pool of contraptions instead of being that. That said, I also did not include any contraption cards on here, and honestly, for the top 10, I kind of focused on cards that more or less kind of stay within Black Border spirit, where there are a lot of cool cards that kind of like go outside of the scope of what can easily be ruled upon. But I tried to stick to, like, yeah, they bend the core rules, but I try to stick as close to the core rules as possible, just to limit the amount of disagreements or something, because you want things to be in a cube to be as intuitive as possible. That said, honestly, Silver Border is amazing for cubes. It's one of the few places, it's one of like the hallmark places where Silver Border shines, because it's one of the few places you can put it, and where it's like legal, and it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of really cool effects, and I haven't actually included any honorable mentions because it would honestly be too many to count. But But yeah, no, silver border magic is a blast, and I have so much silver border stuff in my own cube. But let's just jump right into it. Starting off with number 10, we have the Sword of Dungeons and Dragons, which is a 3-mana equipment with equip 2, so it's like all the other swords. Is it a lot weaker than all the other swords? Yes, but it's still a real solid equipment. Because it gives the equipped creature +2/+2 and protection from rogues and from clerics, which isn't that useful, but it might come up. But whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a 4/4 gold dragon token with flying, and then roll a d20, and if you roll a 20, repeat that process. So, I mean, it is an equipment that, like, it creates 4/4 flyers, which is real solid, and while it's no feast and famine, or fire and ice, it's still a really good equipment for any sort of equipment synergy. Also, it's a lot of fun. Also, you get gold dragons, and the gold dragon tokens are awesome. Because it's like the actual like gold dragon art from the 5th edition monster manual with like the background of the actual like stat block, and it looks really good. I should have pulled it up here, but I didn't. It looks cool. Maybe I'll put it in on post. I don't know. I'll probably forget. Yeah, no, it's number 10 because it's not that exciting. Like, it is most of the time just in equipment. But, yeah. Next up we have Graveyard Busybody, which is a really cool thing for any sort of graveyard deck. Where she is a 6-mana Star whose power and toughness are equal to the number of cards with flavor text in your graveyards. But it also says, all graveyards are also your graveyards. So, in a mill strategy or self-mill strategy or general graveyard strategy, like, she'll be honestly a sizable threat. Like, she's no consuming aberration, but the fact that she makes all of your graveyards also your opponent's graveyards and just like opens up so many reanimation spells to work with that she's just this really cool piece that like for like stealing your opponent's stuff but in a really roundabout way. Like, granted, she does require other pieces to make work very well, but that said, she is still really cool, and honestly, on her own, she'll be a body that you can't ignore. Like, obviously, you don't want to play a creature if it's just to be, like, a vanilla creature, but at the same time, there comes a point where it's like, yeah, vanilla creatures are bad in EDH, but there comes to be a certain size where they stop being super bad, especially in Commander Cube, where the red zone is so much more important. And, well, she's nothing, like, huge, but, like, I could, like, game, like, she can easily come down and probably be, without much effort on your part, at least, like, a 10/10, or maybe larger, and will that win the game outright? No, but it is a threat that needs to be answered, while also giving utility to those decks, which I really like, and I think it's just a neat little quirky thing. Next up we have Summon the Pack, which is 7 black for a sorcery. You open a sealed magic booster pack, reveal the cards, and put all creature cards revealed this way onto the battlefield under your control. They're zombies in addition to their types. This is just like, most of the unsets have something to do with like using more boosters and stuff, which is fun. And it's just like, it's expensive, but it does put a lot of stuff on the board. And like I constantly say in these things where it's, when you're designing a cube and designing these for this thing, you're not really designing a deck, you're designing like, what cards would give you a good experience, what cards will generate good like memories and things like that. And Summon the Pack is just kind of one of those cards where it's where you do hit, like, it's when you are able to just like dump like some bomb rare or something that you open and things like that. And it just leads to a lot of really cool situations. This is one you do have to make kind of a ruling on, where it's like, is it you grab a pack from like, just like, grab like 15 cards from the cube itself that you don't draft and you put those into play? Or do you have like a few Homelands boosters sitting around if you're in the cube box ready for people to open when they cast some of the pack? It's up to you on like how you want to deal with that. But yeah, no, it's a fun one. Next up we have Rules Lawyer, which is 3 white white for a 1/1 with state-based actions don't apply to you or other permanents you control. If you are playing with a group and if you are not, if you cannot define what a state-based action is, do not put this card in the cube, because you're probably going to be the one who has to be like the arbiter of what this is. And this card seems very complicated, but it isn't that complicated if you know what you're talking about. Like, there's a lot of reminder text, but for the most part, it just, certain things don't happen, and if you know what those things are, it's very easy to keep track of it. It's actually very intuitive how this card works once you know how it works. And I'm not saying that, I'm not a judge, I just happen to know how it works. I mean, I do run a series where I just read from the rules, and I read from the rules for fun, but it's one of those things where it's like, if you feel like you are adequately prepared to be the one to explain what state-based actions are and explain how this card works, this is a really cool card, because it's like this weird, like, kind of like platinum, like, Empyrean, like, or am I, yeah, platinum Empyrean, with that one where you can't lose the game? I don't know, but esque effect and things like that, where, but also applying to, like, your creature, getting, like, pseudo-indestructible to all your other, like, permanents and things like that, and yeah, I can have some wacky things show up, but, yeah, no, it's just really cool, and I like it. And what a good guy. What a really good guy. Rules lawyer. He's cool. Next up is this specific Garbage Elemental. Garbage Elemental was one of the cards that, like, had different text for each one. But this one is a 5-mana 4/3 with Unleash, and you can enter the battlefield with +1/+1 counter, and it can't block as long as it's +1/+1 counter. But it gives each creature you control with of any kind of counter on it, they have Art Menace. Art Menace is not menace. Art Menace is, they cannot be blocked except by creatures of 2 or more visible figures in their art. So it's just like, it has to have at least 2 guys in the actual art to make it, like, to be blockable, which on a lot of board states will mean this creature is unblockable for your counter things, and I think it's just like a cool lord for, like, a counters deck. And I also think it's funny. That's amazing. It's just funny. I like the concept of Art Menace. Also, like, the art and magic is really cool, and anyone who like, anything that, like, gets the players to, like, look at the art more closely than they do, I am all for. I did run into a situation where it was with this card specifically, and someone played this card, and with my cube, all the tokens, I printed out blank art versions of all the tokens in the cubes for people to, like, illustrate while, like, playing the cube and waiting for the person across the table to combo off with. And one of the people hastily started taking out their tokens and quickly drawing in extra people to their token swarm, so they could all of a sudden block all these people. And okay, it was funnier when it was happening, but yeah, no, it's just fun and it leads to some neat situations. Another one of the ones with, like, extra, like, there's multiple texts on it, and that is this Everythingamajig, which is, that's it. Most of the Everythingamajigs I do really like. And it's also in my queue personally for these, like, multiple text ones. Some of them I have actually, like, multiple different versions of them within the cube itself. At which point I have the ruling of, normally you can't have 2 cards with the same name if they mechanically are different, which is really when it comes up during Commander, in a Commander deck, or typically in a cube you're not supposed to, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like, if you have 2 of the different Everythingamajigs, it's fine, don't worry about it, because I liked both their effects. Just be careful till you know which one you drew. But this one is, its first ability is, it just taps as a mana rock. Who cares? And then the third ability, which is 8, tap it, and it deals 12 damage to a creature, so it's just solid removal, and honestly you're already paying 6 mana to get this thing out, so it's like getting to 8 mana, it's not bad for, like, a removal stick. But then the second one is the one I really love because I love like lore and flavor text and stuff like that. Like flavor text is honestly one of my favorite parts of like when you're looking at the cohesive part of Magic as a whole. Flavor text is like one of my favorite things to talk about. But if they use 1 and tap it to say the flavor text on a card in your hand, target opponent guesses the card's name. You may reveal that card. If you do and your opponent guesses wrong, draw a card. So it's like a card draw engine, but it has like a fun little like game of like guessing like flavor text and things like that. And it's like a cool little thing to give like your Vorthos friends a leg up on their thing. And kind of like with the whole thing of like making your like anything to like make the people care about the art of a card also care about like the flavor text and all the surrounding creative work surrounding the cards and stuff. Cause yay Vorthos stuff, woo! But even then, otherwise, it's also just not the worst card. Like, yeah, it only draws you 1 card a turn, or is also a mana rock, or is a laser stick, and sure, it's overcosted for all of those things. But for all of them together, I really like it, and it's a fun little card draw minigame thing. Next up, we have Split Screen, which is a 4-mana artifact. When it enters the battlefield, shuffle your library and deal it into 4 libraries. If anything refers to your library, choose 1 of your libraries for it. Play with your library's top card revealed. When Split Screen leaves the battlefield, shuffle your libraries together. So it essentially gives you this really cool kind of like really great card selection thing, while having the downside of like your opponent see what you're drawing and stuff. But it's just a really fun effect, and it's like this is one of those things where it's a really cool, it's like a very distinctly fun silver border effect that doesn't have it's still like distinctly silver border while not being like wacky or not concrete in the rules, because you know exactly how this works. Okay, there's corner cases that are weird, but you know generally exactly how it works, and there's not that much confusion of it. Like, people have played with cards that were like top card field, and now you have multiple libraries and stuff. Man, it's just a really cool card. And then you play a Future Sight, and then you just go off. Yeah. Next up, we have Earl of Squirrel, who, for the most part, is just very good at being a lord, but also has some really cool combo synergies because it is a 6-mana 4/4 with Squirrel Link, which is like a lifelink, but it creates 1/1 squirrels. It also says other creature tokens you control are squirrels in addition to the other creature types. Other squirrels you control get +1/+1. So it does 2 things. A, it has Squirrel Link, which is hilarious and great. 2, the squirrel, which is great. And 3, it does provide this kind of like token lord effect where it just does buff all your tokens and stuff. And yeah, no, it's a funny card, but it's also just a really solid card. Combine that with any like equipment that allows you like ping or anything, and it's just like really, it's a really fun thing. So, Earl of Squirrel, okay, mostly it's just funny. Well, it's also just, I like token decks, they're fun, but also it's funny. Earl of Squirrel. Next we have By No Means, which is a 3-mana enchantment, and which is really kind of like a build around one, where it's I want to pick this early, and honestly, it's in the number 2 slot, mostly because I really want to see a deck with this like really go off and work. But you can pay 1 and a white to remove a counter from a permanent you control to create a 1/1 colorless known artifact creature token. And you also may pay 1 and a white to sacrifice an artifact to choose any kind of counter a printed card refers to, and then put 1 of that counter on target permanent. Where, I mean, one of the more popular commanders for a while was Gave, which had a very similar effect with saprolings and like green, things and stuff. And this gives it in an enchantment form with like an artifact twist to it, and I think it's a really cool thing, and this like conversion of resources and things like that, and it provides an artifact sack outlet while also producing artifacts and any way of like abusing like counters and stuff. Because one of the things I really like about Commander Cube is that oftentimes you're not running, it's not like a super fine-tuned deck where you're running like this is my one archetype, where oftentimes Commander Cube decks end up being 2 or 3 archetypes kind of stapled together. And this is one of those cards where it's those 2 archetypes kind of stapled together, where it's artifact and counters archetype. And it's just a really cool thing that I like, and also its name is a pun, which is rad. But yeah, so I think it's cool. And for number 1, we have Urza, Academy Headmaster, who is Wooburg for a legendary planeswalker, Urza, with +1. Head to AskUrza.com and press +1. -1. Head to AskUrza.com and click -1. -6. Head to AskUrza.com and click -6. Okay, all these abilities, each of these abilities has 20 different abilities I could possibly do, and most of them are actually existing Planeswalker abilities. You just don't know which one you're getting. And Urza A is a blast to play. He's fun, and it's just exciting to like pull out your phone and like go to AskUrza.com and press which one you want. But one of the main things about it is also that Planeswalkers are dangerous in Commander because people target them because they're repeatable sources of value that are kind of easy to get rid of. But Urza has this hidden political advantage of people don't like to attack Urza. Like, people will just be like, I don't want to attack Urza, he's gonna ultimate next turn, and I want to see what happens. And it's kind of this curiosity factor where people just don't want to attack him at all, ever. And it's just like, yes. I don't know, it's just like, people play very poorly around Urza to like Urza players' advantage, where it's just they don't see him as a threat because like, oh, it's random, and he just ends up generating so much value for you. Also, he's just really fun. Like, there's like, granted, yeah, people don't attack him because they want to see what happens, but they want to see what happens because it's really cool and fun and quirky, and yeah, I love Urza. When I had my Super Friends deck for a while, he was like my commander of it. When the people at my cube wanted to be cool about it, and when they didn't, I had Joda ready to go as the backup commander. But Urza was there and ready to go, and he was a blast every time he came out. I mean, sometimes he'd come out and do stone nothing, but it's like, yes, thank you for the +1/+0 emblem in my Super Friends deck. I'm going to take great use of that. Thank you, Urza. But yeah, no. Urza's cool. I don't know what else to say. But with that has been my top 10 cards for Commander Cube from Unstable. And like I said, like, I didn't include the contraption cards, but there are some cool contraption cards that if you want to go with like the shared contraptions like rule set, works really well. Host and augment and dice rolling are just really hard to make work, for some of the same reasons why like tribal doesn't really work in a Commander Cube, or energy doesn't really work very well in a Commander Cube. And I mean, I've worked around that with Tales and Poems, but that's not a standard Commander Cube thing. Because it's like, I like those synergy things, and I went out of my way to get that. But they typically don't work if you want to have just like a very straightforward Commander Cube. But that said, there's still lots of supplemental ones. But yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Like, let me know if you like have any other cards I like failed to highlight. Also, let me know if there's any set you want me to do. Like, should I just go do and then do Unglued and Unhinged? I'll probably just keep going backwards still, and which next up I think is Ixalan. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed the series, and I am looking into also potentially doing a series on how to build a Commander Cube, because I've been talking about that for a while, but also doing some written articles. Not necessarily for the people here, but because I know that ASMR isn't everyone's thing, and I want to get the good word of Commander Cube, not to just people who want to listen to magic ASMR. But yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you're weathering spring more than my sinuses are. But until next time, I hope you have a wonderful night, and may your stories smile upon you.